So, while I was brainstorming how to go about making my top 5 iterations of Pac-Man, I found myself remembering one in particular that I never really gave much thought in the past, but looking at it now, it's kinda strange. In 2012, Capcom released a little game called Street Fighter X Tekken. Yeah, it's basically self-explanatory, but one thing to note is that it featured two particular guest characters, Capcom's Mega Man and Namco's very own Pac-Man. Now, initially one might think that this is pretty neat, having two of these iconic mascots appear in a crossover of their individual companies' flagship fighting game franchises. However, their representations are a little abstract, if you will. Mega Man here is based off of the bad box art of his debut game, and is portrayed as a fat, clumsy, wannabe superhero man-child, almost similar to that of Captain Quark from the Ratchet & Clank series, as opposed to the brave super fighting robot that takes the appearance of a young boy. And Pac-Man, who in his own games is a fun-loving adult with the wonderment of a child that isn't afraid to crack jokes every once in a while, is now in this game a power-hungry, psychotic serial killer who controls a mech and devours cities. Now, while this is mainly focused on Pac-Man's portrayal, I do want to briefly mention Mega Man for a second. Mega Man fans hated this when it was announced, not for what it was, but rather because of what was going on with Mega Man around the time. Simply put, Mega Man had been going through a bit of a purge, with several of his games getting announced only to then get cancelled, most infamous example being Mega Man Legends 3, and the series overall just being left in a dormant state, aside from merchandise and a few shitty mobile games. And, well, this. Mega Man fans saw this as a bit of a slap to the face, as if they were being kicked while they were down. Honestly, I never really minded the bad box art Mega Man in this game, especially now since Mega Man has made a major comeback in the form of the excellent Mega Man 11 and the many collections and re-releases of his older games. And I do find this version of Mega Man to be quite hilarious, and I do like the attention to detail given to his design here. With all that put aside, let's now talk about how weird this version of Pac-Man is, and why I find it to be one of his more odd interpretations. For one, why is Pac-Man using a robot? I mean, yeah, he did pilot Talkman in Pac-Man World 3, but at least it made sense due to the situation in those particular levels that had Pac-Man using Talkman. Although, I believe the robot that Pac-Man used in this game was never even given a name, so it could possibly be the third or fourth iteration of Talkman. Hell, I kinda headcanon it. But I also kinda don't because, well, it's non-canon, so fuck it anyway. I do like the design of the robot. I feel it would fit well in a Pac-Man World game, if it were to be utilized in a vehicle section of sorts. I can't help but feel like the idea to have Pac-Man use a machine to fight may as well stem from the, at the time, ill-conceived notion that Pac-Man couldn't work as a fighter, which has been completely proven to be bullshit, not just by Super Smash Bros., but also by the Pac-Man World games, which came out years before Street Fighter X Tekken. Oh well, at least the flip kick is here. And then there's Pac-Man's personality. Now, people have criticized World 3 for supposedly having Pac-Man be out of character, but I can't help but feel that's a bit misjudged, or at the very least exaggerated. Yeah, there were moments where his dickishness went a bit overboard, but there were plenty of moments where he was very in character. With Pac-Man and Street Fighter X Tekken, on the other hand, they basically made him a bit of a bad guy. The game's plot focuses on a mysterious box that contains immense power, that all of the playable fighters are after. Pac-Man's motivation for going after the box is mostly left ambiguous. That is until we get to his ending, where he consumes the power within the box, grows into Paczilla, and proceeds to then terrorize a city. Now, if you ask me, terrorizing a city is pretty out of character for Pac-Man, more so than him killing Irwin. How is this out of character, you may ask? Because Pac-Man is generally a good guy, so seeing him do this is, well, weird. And to add on, it's implied that this city is the maze from the original game. At least it's non-canon. Yeah, I can't help but be reminded of all those interpretations people make of the original Pac-Man, completely ignoring all the games that expand off of the lore. Granted, those games aren't nearly as recognized as the original, but still, it doesn't change the fact that this is a rather weird and out of character for the titular yellow guy. That being said, I don't necessarily hate it, nor would I consider it the worst version of Pac-Man. Hell, at the very least it didn't kill the franchise. This, on the other hand, kinda did, but that'll have to be a subject for another day. In the end, this is Capcom's version of Pac-Man. Of course there's gonna be some weird differences. The point of this video wasn't necessarily to criticize this version of Pac-Man, but to rather acknowledge a piece of Pac-Man history. And for what it's worth, it is interesting. Anyways, that's all I have to say about this. I will see you all later.